Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! ISB.
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up.
Got it!
Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. It's May 22nd. Hope you're having an enjoyable spring. Jim Coyle with you. John, the producer, keeping us between the white lines. Looking forward to another fun show here on this Monday. Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star will join us. Who else we have, John?
Oh, you got me. My lovely face today.
Oh, lovely. Dustin has been up at the NBA Combine. Looking forward to talking to him about that. Of course, plenty of news with the Indianapolis 500. Pole positions, qualifying, bumps. Jim Brown passed away. The PGA, of course. Indiana picks up another quarterback as they land a 3-star kid from Ohio. Graham Rahal bumped in front of the great Rahal Letterman Lanigan racing team. Bumped on the last day by his teammate by 0.0071 thousandths of a second. Do you know how fast 7 thousandths of a second is? It's an eye blank.
This fast.
It's an eye blank. I mean, it's crazy. It's that's the difference. That's heartbreaking for those guys. Mentioned Indiana football adds a 6'3" athletic quarterback to their fold as they land a 3-star quarterback athlete from Ohio. Indy 500 coming up soon. The poll also decided by 1/100th or 1/1000th, whatever I said, of a second. So the NBA, Cody Zeller and the Miami Heat are one game away from reaching the NBA Finals. Cody, could he win him a big ring? Big fat ring? NBA ring, baby. I mean, that's big time. They have a 3-0 lead on the
not to
Celtics.
mention they're the 8th seed. How often has the 8th seed ever made the NBA Finals? Great
question. That is an absolute great question. I would find it hard to believe.
It's nice to see that. I mean, one thing that the conversation that always comes up when March Madness rolls around is if you played these teams, and I'm referring to college basketball right now specifically, if you played these teams in a 7-game series, the lower team would never win. Well, this is an example in the NBA Finals right now of that happening.
That's a great point. A great point that it's happening this year of all times when it happened during this sudden parity we have in college basketball because of the portal. But parity in NBA, which parity is kind of in there, is there in professional sports to a degree, but you usually do not see, in essence, a 16 seed reaching the Final Four.
Yeah.
I don't know that an 8 seed in the NBA is equivalent. Well, I know that it's not. An 8 seed in the NBA is not equivalent to an NCAA 16 seed. But I'm trying to think of where I would put them. I'll turn to our audience members and see what they think. But what's the equivalent of an NBA 8 seed? It's the final playoff seed when you get in.
I guess since there's only two sides of the bracket, there's 16 teams in an NBA final or an NBA tournament. I guess you would be looking at the lowest 4 seed in the NCAA tournament, right? In terms of the amount of teams.
Nah, because the 4 seed that's not at all shocking to make it.
Exactly. I agree with you, but that's in terms of numbers of teams. That's technically, I guess, where it would fall, but
yeah. The Lakers are down to 3-0. How about that? And I think I already corrected this, but if I didn't, I want to. Last week I said, man, wouldn't it be cool if Cody Zeller and Thomas Bryant played against each other? I forgot the Lakers traded Thomas Bryant to Denver, if I didn't correct that. So let me correct that again. But yeah, how crazy is that? Which actually, Denver is the team that he's probably most likely going to face, right? So
yeah, the Nuggets are the ones that are up.
So it will still be Cody Zeller and Thomas Bryant making the NBA Finals.
Be the first group of Hoosiers since OG Anunoby and the Raptors, correct? Which wasn't that long ago, but
wait a minute. We need to go back and check when's the last time a former Hoosier player was playing against a former Hoosier player in the NBA Finals.
That's a great question. That's probably
there's some research to do. That's hard to do on the fly because you just started thinking about this stuff, but that could be a nice little story. Have to keep that in mind. That doesn't happen very often. 2 former Hoosiers potentially playing against each other in the NBA Finals. It didn't happen very often for anybody. But pretty cool. And kind of ironic, both of them are big men. Of course, Thomas Bryant from New York, but Cody Zeller down from Washington, Indiana. Welcome aboard, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Hope you've got a great day started. Welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Of course, brought to you by our good friends from Andy Moore Honda. Make sure you go to andymoorehonda.com to get more to your door and the best in new and used vehicles. Also, the Endeavor Hospitality family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington area. Great places like BB's Market, where you'll find the best in-house made products, a full-size bakery, incredible meats, custom, and soon coming Chop Shop. The Chop Shop located right next door, an incredible steakhouse where you could actually walk over to the butcher and pick out your own steak. Say, hey, I want that one. Pretty cool. How's everybody doing? How was your weekend? How was your weekend, by the way?
Oh, you're talking to me now. My weekend was fantastic.
Who the hell else would I be talking to? You see?
Well, it's weird when you go. Usually, you address the audience when you're talking about the weekend, and usually I don't.
It's like what? It's like the honeymooners when he says, "Oh, the first thing you're supposed to do is address the ball." Hello, ball.
No, I had a great weekend. I really love this weather we've got right now. I've been consistently.
Dude, it's the greatest weather in the history of weather.
I've been consistently having backyard campfires. I've got plenty of logs I've been trying to get through while we're in these. This is the perfect time of year. The humidity is low. The temperatures aren't too hot yet. I mean, this entire week ahead, I believe we've got high 70s and low 80s with hardly any rain predicted.
I have been sleeping right, within feet of a wide open door, letting it in. I'm like, oh my, yeah, this has been pretty awesome. Pretty good.
And we're a week away from the unofficial start of summer, as some say, Memorial Day weekend.
So we're 1 week away from Memorial Day weekend. So we're
Memorial Day itself, since it's a Monday.
Yeah. So Is the 500 this weekend?
If it's Memorial Day, if that's when it is. I believe it's always on Memorial Day, right? I don't want to act.
Yeah, I was thinking it was next week for some reason.
Time gets ahead of us. The Indy 500 is
it's on the 28th, so yeah.
That's next week or this coming weekend.
Sunday.
Life
How
sneaks
about that?
up on you.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And it'll be here, and the weather will be fantastic, it looks like. So that means it's going to be a hell of a turnout. So you got that going for you, which is nice. Indiana baseball, they wrapped up this weekend not too well. Ended up second in the Big Ten, which, I mean, second in the Big Ten, that's not exactly bad. We'll head on playing the tournament. Maryland wins the Big Ten. See what they do there.
As the 2 seed will face the number 7 seed Illinois on, let's look, tomorrow at 2 p.m. And we'll face the winner or loser of Iowa versus Michigan, if they, depending on the result of that.
Jeff Mercer is having his prospect camp. That is on June 12th, September 3rd, and October 14th at the BART. You can sign up by just simply going to jeffmercerbaseballcamps.com. This is for rising grades 8 through 12 and junior college players. Jeff Mercer, the baseball coach, of course, at Indiana, a great teacher. And I'm going to pass that along. A little info, see how the Hoosiers end up in baseball. It'll be interesting to find out. Let's see. Got a lot of spring stuff coming up, man. That's before we get into the AAU season, hardly. Oh, how about Brooks Koepka winning the PGA?
Is that your boy?
No, but it's just a little. He's an LIVer, number one, so that's a big deal. And he actually, I don't want to say choked, but he had the Masters one, and it got away from him. I'll just say that. So he could have won back-to-back majors in LIV. And early on, Bryson DeChambeau was leading this thing. So it's a matter of time before there is an agreement between the PGA and LIV. I just feel confident of that. In some way. At that point, though, what does that do to LIV? I mean, what's the point of them? It'll be. I think the LIVers are going to come out smelling like roses because they're going to be banking hundreds of millions of dollars. Well, they've already banked hundreds of millions of dollars. I think that there's going to end up being some kind of agreement to allow them to play somehow, because how can you have the best players not in your events and 30% of the top 10 of the PGA finish LIVers,
Right,
including the winner? So you got that going for you, which is nice. We've got to take a break. Plenty more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Dustin Dopirak. He's been up at Chicago at the NBA Combine. Look forward to talking about that. We'll talk about Trace Jackson Davis, Jalen Hood-Schifino, and others, how it went up there, and plenty more. You're listening to ISB Radio, brought to you by our good friends from the PB's Market. Make sure you stop by and visit the Chop Shop starting June 1st. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the hey, my, rock and roll will never die. Cincinnati's just a nice city.
I wonder if something's going on with the stream because our numbers are very weird looking. Oh, I see YouTube is down. You actually click on it and it shows the live viewers.
YouTube is down?
Unless it's just a glitch in what they're showing me. If you're watching live on YouTube, please comment right now to confirm that YouTube is not down, please. It appears that we're fine based on Russell Baxter hearing you sing.
Well, that was not my best, Russell, I can promise you.
Yeah, maybe it's just so we're apparently fine. My numbers it's showing that YouTube is at a 0, which makes no sense considering people are commenting from YouTube. So, oh well.
Up and running.
Thanks for clarifying, everybody.
Oh,
What'd you say?
No, I don't know. That's sweet. Look at that sweet ride Jared's got. Oh, that's sweet looking, isn't it?
I wonder why StreamYard's not recognizing the YouTube views. It's only it shows Facebook and it has a number, and then it shows Indiana Sports Beat for YouTube, but it shows 0. But oh well.
Well, we've got Ruffalo on, so that's all that matters. He's confirmed it.
That's right.
Ruffalo confirmed it. It's all good. When's Dustin up?
We have this
9:10.
next segment. Yeah, 9:10, and then he's on. Or this segment, and then he's on 9:10.
Who are we missing today? Kevin?
I'm not sure Kevin Sweeney is going to do a regular segment. I think he's too busy because every time I reach out to him, he says we'll have to try some other time.
Like today, like this week?
Yeah. I can reach out and see if he just wants to do a different day this week, and then we can maybe figure something else out.
Well, I need to find somebody for today. I'd like to talk about what went on over the weekend. Not that there was much going on, to be honest with you, because there's not.
Yeah,
which is good.
It's that time of year. We're finally there. The dust is settling.
Oh, it's coming back. Don't worry.
Here we go.
Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste what Dr. Hops is brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back here on this Monday. Pretty deep into May on the 22nd. What a beautiful month it has been so far. Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Appreciate you being here as always. How'd you spend your weekend? Enjoying this weather? Did you do nothing? Did you just sit around and watch something? I did very little. Very, very little. Before I forget, Never Lose Hoop golf outing that was originally scheduled for June 8th, now scheduled for July 20. Still a Thursday. But IU Sports Properties ended up having an event scheduled the same day, unfortunately. And so we decided it would be best to move it back a little bit. Still, everything is the same. Nothing else changes. Still right here. Golf Club at Eagle Point. Everything else is the same. So should be fine to get you a little more time. Looking forward to that. Don't forget, get signed up, get yourself a foursome, or if you're a business, whole sponsors, some other just going. I'm going to have the entire link, and everything is different this year. It's easy as heck. Everything is all online. Registration, sponsorships, anything that you'd like to do, whole sponsor. And for those that did the whole sponsors last year, I have the pictures of your sign with Jordan Holes. Was able to get that taken care of. We'll be sending those out. Looking forward to it again, a great event, and more importantly, what that event benefits, and that is kids with cancer, area kids with cancer, right here in the immediate area. So for those of you that can help in any way, we greatly appreciate it. I've got to get this pulled up where I had this sent to me yesterday and where JC posted that. Because I don't remember where that he posted that. There we go. That must have been on, I guess that's on Twitter. So I'll have to pull that up in a little bit and we'll get that shot out. Jim Brown passed away at the end of last week as well. Only played 9 years in the NFL, I think. Is that correct? 9? I believe he only played 9 before he walked away. Did you also know, and I remember this for a long time, he went to Syracuse, but he was an All-American lacrosse player. Boy, John, I saw John, the producer's head turn quickly. He was an All-American lacrosse player, man.
It's always unique when you find players that were all-stars at something else, and then you find out that they were essentially 2 or 3 sport athletes and stuff like that, and excelled at them.
First of all, great athletes are a lot of times just great athletes, and that's why it'll carry over into a second sport. Not always, but not always a sport that they wanted to carry over. Perfect example, Michael Jordan in baseball.
Yep.
Now, would he have been a better baseball player had he just played baseball that whole time? Probably, because he was just an unbelievable athlete, his will to win, all of that stuff. That does not I wouldn't doubt that a bit. Five Left said he was the best lacrosse player in the world. I mean, I'm like, what you got? How are you going to refute that, man? First of all, who the hell's going to take him on coming across? I never played lacrosse. It's an East Coast thing. I didn't even really know about it growing up. Basically, it's like field hockey, but not field hockey. It's
the same. It's played at the same pace, but you're throwing the ball in the air, whereas in field hockey, you're hitting the ball on the ground.
Right, and in lacrosse, you have I don't know what they call the racket with the net in it, but that's how you throw the ball. Yeah. And it's also pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? There are a lot of physical contact in that game.
Yeah.
A lot of physical contact, but it's like hockey in the air. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So hockey in the air, field hockey without the ice, and then regular hockey on the ice.
But yeah. But it was crazy. Yeah, but he was an All-American lacrosse player. I wonder how many times. I think he was a 2-time All-American, possibly. Very possibly. But, and that's just in lacrosse. He was also an actor, or he started acting. I don't really call people who are given bit parts actors, but in Any Given Sunday, he wasn't bad. That's a good movie, actually. Kind of a good movie. But yeah, he only played in the NFL for 9 years. but he did so many other things. I mean, this dude did a lot of different stuff. You know, he was a social activist, of course, back in the day with Muhammad Ali and those, but he was in a lot of big time films, man. The Dirty Dozen. Yeah, that was a pretty big movie back in the day. He was an NFL player. He was an actor. He played in enough stuff that I will call him an actor. All-American lacrosse player, activist. He's a guy who accomplished a lot, whether you like him or not. So, big loss for the people. I did not get to see Jim Brown play. He was before my era, so to speak. But I remember someone who walked away from the game way before they should have, and that was played for Detroit. Daggone it. Was just heading towards the rushing record and just Barry Sanders. And he just walked away from the game. Now, his record probably would have been broken by Emmitt Smith from Dallas because he stayed around long enough just to do that and was on those great teams. Here's the difference. Barry Sanders was on a crappy Detroit team. I loved watching him run. Walter Payton was on that crappy Chicago Bears team for all of his career until the very end. But I loved watching him run. Loved watching those guys. They were incredible. The fridge. Russell says he liked the Bears in the fridge. That was okay. That was some fun time in football. I got to tell you, man. First of all, that may be the greatest time in the history of NFL because you had that Chicago team, first of all, that was made up of the biggest bunch of ragtag characters, not bad players. I don't mean that, but ragtag characters on both sides of the ball. I don't care if you're talking about defense. In defense, you had Mike Singletary in the middle, who was solid as a rock, but no, and the perfect middle linebacker. He had a great head on his shoulders. But then you had guys like Otis Wilson who were badass on the end. You had the Fridge, Dewerson, those guys. Then on the offensive side, you've got this crazy wild quarterback. Do you remember who that was? Jim with the headband. Went to BYU, the clean school, and he was the wild child. You had daggone it, I was just talking about him, the running back.
Barry Sanders.
No, for the Bears. Walter Payton.
Walter Payton.
But then you had the Fridge that they would put in the backfield on short yardage situations, which is basically an old high school tactic. Back in high school, you need this yard. You bring in your defensive tackle, you line him up as a running back, blocking running back. But they gave the ball to the Fridge. I think it was in the Super Bowl he scored, wasn't it? Scored a touchdown. How you gonna stop? He kicked a touchdown. No, how you gonna stop that? But what a crazy team that was. And then Mike Ditka, you had Mike Ditka, the head coach, who ran the offense, and you had the defensive coordinator who they were at odds. It was nuts. Two guys getting carried off the field. It was crazy. But great characters. Great characters, and you need that sometimes. They really try to limit that. I love characters in sports. You really don't see that in a college game because if you're deemed a character, you're looked at as kind of, yeah, he's a little whatever. Become a pro, then you're eccentric. But if it's before that, you could be a troublemaker. Jim McMahon. There we go. Justin says Brown, Peyton, and Sanders are the GOATs. You know what? I think Jim Brown was a really good running back, but Walter Payton, Barry Sanders, they're the two best for me. There's nobody that is on their level to me. I got to see Walter Payton play. I got to see Barry Sanders play. I've seen only film of Jim Brown. But to me, Peyton and Sanders, there you go. I'm with 5 lefts on this one. I think Peyton and Sanders are the greatest running backs in the NFL history. Personally, that's my personal opinion. Doesn't mean make it so, but yeah, that was I'm not a Bears fan either. But I'm just, if you think back in NFL football and that was probably the funnest. You know, they call it the no fun league. NFL, it's a no fun league. That
also
was
stands for not for long. You're not going to be in there for long. Usually, either your careers don't last too long unless you.
Well, if you're a running back, especially. Russell said he went to Walter Payton's restaurant in Aurora, Illinois. What a place to feast, eat, and be merry. Didn't know he had that. There you go. Yeah, they had. I mean, that team was so good. I'm not a Bears fan, but that team is so good. I remember half of that team. I can't name you half of last year's team that won the Super Bowl or 5 years before that. I'd have to go back to a team that I was vested in that was in the Super Bowl to tell you. And I still don't know that I could tell you as many starters as I could tell you from that Chicago Bears team. They were iconic. And I think it's cool. I kind of miss it. The old Dallas Steelers, the Cowboys and the Steelers days. Now that was fun. Yeah. Those were some fun days. Back in the Roger Staubach and Terry Bradshaw days. I mean, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, that's right. I hate that. The Fridge got this. And Walter Payton never scored, now that I think about it. He never scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl, and the Fridge did, because after taking him all the way down the field, they gave the ball to the Fridge to score. And Walter never scored a Super Bowl touchdown. Not that I guess it matters. He did so much more, but crazy to think about that, huh? Cops sported a headband. Are you talking about Indiana's cops? We got to take a break. Is he sports? He sports a headband.
That's neither. I don't know why he brought it up, but yes.
I love that. I love that in a kid, especially a young one. That, you know what? That just has a good feeling to me. That means I think that kid's going to be a freaking gym rat. I think Indiana is going to love that kid.
Oh no, no. You're talking about cups. I thought he was talking about cop, like Miller Cop. He did the headband. But who knows? He may have been cups. But either way,
we've got to take a break. We've got more coming up here from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Monday. Dustin Dopirak from Indy Star joined us. Can't wait. Talking about the NBA Combine and much more. Hit that like button, subscribe, and toggle and notifications toggle if you're checking it out on YouTube. Otherwise, we'll be right back with more here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether it's
Hey, we have to find somebody tomorrow for a chronic spot.
You want me to try Kevin Brockway for tomorrow?
Sure.
Okay. I'll go ahead and send him a text.
Or what's his name from today that couldn't make it?
Oh, Sweeney. If I don't hear from Brockway, I'll reach out to him. Good morning, Dustin.
Good morning, John.
FYI,
Good morning,
FYI
Jim.
the other would be more it's
I'll let
more
you know.
college. Well, the other one would be first. Kevin, please, first, if you wouldn't mind. I mean, Sweeney first.
Okay.
Dustin, how are you, sir?
Doing good, Jim. About yourself?
I cannot complain. Are you going to the track?
No. We I would be. That's basically asked me to GA for it, but we've got a wedding on Saturday, and so we will not. I will not be in any shape to get up at 5 a.m. as I would have to on Sunday. So
You were supposed to GA it for who?
I mean, we like.
I got you.
For the Star. I mean, like they obviously Nathan Brown, directs.
Gotcha.
coverage.
General assignment. I got you.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I'm trying because I will be. I have a box of vino for you, and I want to get that to you when I'm coming up there. That's this week, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I will text me to make sure. I don't know if I have it, but text me your physical address.
All right, I will do that. Will do.
How was the combine?
It was good. It was useful. It's kind of a weird deal because not too many guys do the scrimmages, and you also get like all the availability in the morning on Wednesday, not on the morning, but like early afternoon on Wednesday. So I didn't really watch a lot of basketball. So it's like we got all the availability, so I just ran and wrote everything and just sort of missed all the games. But got to see the testing on Monday and the lottery on Tuesday was useful because we got to talk to Pritchard after that and got a sense of where he stands, where he's at, and all that. What he's thinking going in. So it was useful. And Chicago's gorgeous.
All right, here we go, guys.
Bloomington area is a fresh, home-cooked, nutritious meal prep that we cook up. The Fresh Fork takes care of all the planning, shopping, and prepping and can even deliver them to your doorstep once a week. That's right, it's the fastest, simplest, and easiest way to avoid decision fatigue. You pick your plan and pick up at BB's Market with no extra charge. So leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this beautiful Monday. It is a specially ordered Chamber of Commerce weather week for that matter. I think it was ordered by Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star. Arrived just on time. You brought it in, man. You've made it great.
Totally. No, I imagine Indianapolis is doing this because they've got it's an important week in Indy. So
that's an understatement if there was one. But I'm looking at this forecast, and it is looking like it is going to be exceptional this entire week, at least in what I call the South Central Indiana area.
I see nothing but yellow balls for all the way through up until Saturday. Then it's just a partly cloudy day with high of 79, a high of 80 on Sunday, most importantly, with a very small chance of participation. That's probably a tick warmer than they would like it, but man, this weather is custom ordered for Indy.
Really is. Yeah, no, it's perfect. It's gonna be warm early this week, but yeah, like you said, it'll be 80 on Sunday. You know, that's what you're looking for race week for sure. So.
And how that's huge for Indianapolis, because there's no question when you have weather like this at an event like this, it's the attendance is going to swell, and we're already talking about an attendance that is bigger than any other place on the planet for a sporting event. And it will be bigger. I mean, what's the most they've ever had? Was it back 7 years ago for the 100th running, I'm assuming?
Shoot, I don't even know.
I think it was like 300 and something. They had over 300,000, I believe. I'm fairly certain for the 100th running, which I didn't go to like an idiot.
Yeah,
but
Indy 500 Wikipedia. Let me go through it here.
I think that they're especially with sticking to that ban.
Yeah.
I don't know that they're going to hit that this year because it's not the 100th running, and that made it a little bit special. But I'm betting they're going to hit 275, 280.
Yeah. No, they definitely could. I mean, it's gonna draw really, really well, and I mean, like, just I think also you're going to see it go up every year, and like you're seeing ratings go up because I think there's as we've gotten out of the pandemic period, like every year out of that it feels a little bit more normal. You're seeing attendance go up where we feel a little bit more normal. Everybody feels a little bit more safe going out to events like this. You're going to see that, on top of the weather, it is going to go up a lot for sure.
I'm wondering why that is. If I'm sure it's a combination of everything, but you've got a lot of factors. Roger Penske has taken ownership of this track and vowed to grow it, which it's kind of hard to buy the Titanic and say you're going to grow it.
Right.
But that's in essence what you're doing here. You're buying a Titanic, and by that I mean a giant entity, and to say you're going to grow that, that's ballsy. But probably is, and kind of looks like it's on the path to doing that.
Right. No, definitely. I mean, it's a huge event, but like it's also the sport can grow. I mean, I think, and so as the sport grows, it grows the race, and obviously, like IndyCar has had its sort of ups and downs in its years. I mean, going back to the and I barely understand this. Most of my understanding here comes from like one conversation with my guy Nathan Brown, who's our Indy Star beat writer, is excellent in his job. Just going back to the separation with kart back in the 90s, like they really kind of had to reset the entire sport more or less.
I mean, that set it back.
Yeah, set it back a long ways. I mean, it was such an entity for a while, and it really fell off when you had the separation of the drivers and whatnot. And so, obviously the Indy 500 event has always been huge, but the circuit as a whole hasn't necessarily always drawn, that well, nearly as big as the event itself has. So
as a matter of fact, that's such a great point. I don't know that I have ever seen a sport that has such a massive one-off event and then has such a fall off for everything else.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's nothing that's equal to that level. I mean, the closest thing is probably just Triple Crown horse racing, where it's like you have 3 events, you don't know what's going on with those horses the rest of the year. They also have the daggone it, the Breeders' Cup. Gigantic races. There are so many gigantic races throughout the season now that I think that it draws in. It's definitely a step up as far as a regular continuous offering of big entree items. Yeah, no, exactly. So I mean, like even like golf, tennis, everything else has like several events over the course of the year. Track's a different story, when you're talking about Olympics and worlds and whatnot, but that's just, it's different because you're talking about actual humans running. And, like when you can have major events doing that and whatnot. I don't know if anybody like knows what Diamond League is or cares or anything like that. So yeah, no, it's definitely, there's definitely that. And it's just like trying to feed into helping the sport grow and everything like that. And, building momentum off the Indy 500 and hoping to get that to go somewhere else. I'm sure is a big part of it, but there is certainly ways to grow the sport, but it's already, just a huge event in Indianapolis, and it's hard to make it any bigger.
Not only is it a big event, it is an unbelievably important event. Where would you rank the importance to Indianapolis as a city as far as there is nothing that compares from an economic impact from an event. The NCAA tournament doesn't do this. This is such a massive event, and it's every year. They're having a 250,000 people event every year. There is no other place on the planet that does that.
No, it's a gigantic event. It's like the cornerstone. I mean, Indianapolis gets so much other stuff coming in from like Final Fours, and it's had the Super Bowl, and NCAA tournament regionals and Big Tens and the Big Ten championship, and it's got a lot of sort of events that I wouldn't go so far as to call secondary, but are a pretty significant deal. But it doesn't compare to several weeks of this. That you're talking quals, you're talking the Grand Prix, you're talking the 500 itself. No, it's the biggest by far, event in terms of economic impact. But it sets the standard. But like that's why Indianapolis does sort of come close to meeting that standard with a lot of other events. I mean, not only sporting events, but there's like so many things, so many conventions throughout the year, whether it's this, like Gen Con or like these comic book things and these game things, and like there's like you go
Comic-Con?
What's that?
Comic-Con?
I don't think it gets Comic-Con. I don't know.
We haven't had a Comic-Con. That's the crazy, but it's like out in San Diego or something.
Yeah, but they have stuff that's similar, like that functions similarly, like ones that you can get comic books, or there's movies, and like during the summer, like you're always good for walking in downtown Indianapolis and seeing somebody dressed up like Darth Vader. Like it's definitely going to happen at some point, or Superman, or Wonder Woman, or whatever. Like that happens all the time. Like there's always one of those. They had the NRA convention, like they have these massive giant events downtown all the time. So you're always seeing somebody at some kind of
FFA.
And FFA, yeah, FFA is huge. That's right. That's a good point. FFA is gigantic. And so you see kids in their FFA uniforms for like a whole week. And so, like that's the underpinning of Indianapolis. That's the whole point of the city, practically, is to be this crossroads where everybody shows up at it. But, the 500 kind of sets the standard, is that it can handle something like that. And you go from there, basically. And the 500 is one of the few that's not based downtown. That's not based basically on Georgia Street, or Maryland, or whatever the convention's on. That's it. Like that's the one where you kind of step outside, and the fair, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's good. It's a city that's just good for hosting things, and it's never better than it is at the 500.
And I didn't get to enjoy this, but I know families that did. That this thing, man, it's a huge family thing, and it doesn't matter if they're going to it or not. They could just be having their annual parties in the backyard, and what a great time and great excuse to do that on a great Sunday afternoon. It's similar to down around Louisville. They have the Derby parties everywhere, and those have probably spread out, and these have spread out other places as well. But there are, with all the hundreds of thousands of people that are there are so many more right around there, around home there, that are having parties. And just, this has been a family long event for years.
I mean,
And it's not because they're great car fans. They're Indianapolis 500 fans.
yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, it does expand and create kind of a, a fanship of racing that's different. I mean, because obviously you think of, the South is more kind of the NASCAR capital of the world. But obviously they've got the other races and everything like that, the NASCAR races that come through and do with the Brickyard and whatnot, and other Indy races and stuff. But you go down to Speedway and like just that's what the neighborhood's called, or the town is called. That's
actually a real town with a post office. They have their own high school.
Yeah, no, it's Speedway High School and like stuff like that along just 16th Street, and like you just see like like all these houses are done up, like where they have like all this paraphernalia and whatnot, and signs and everything like that, and just like the people that live there, a lot of their identity is based on this race, but they also like make a ton of money off of it. I mean, like it's hard to park down there, so they take advantage and put signs out in their yard and take $20 for whoever can park their car in there.
Hey man, so, this is also an event that people that you're talking about wait on for a year, because for the month of May, they get to make money doing that very thing. I mean, there are some, I know it's the same down around Churchill Downs in Louisville, but there are they make some good money, and it's this one time a year, man. It's huge for them.
No,
just absolutely. Like it is for the economic of Indianapolis. It's the same for the little guy.
Yeah, it is. No, it really is. I mean, like you can't park on the street in Speedway during the events. So like either you're paying for the, lot parking or whatever, or you're parking in somebody's yard. So like during quals, you can't like park on the street, so it's like anywhere, it's just in that vicinity. Like I'm trying to think of how far, I don't know how far that goes out, but I know there was, I had to do contact tracing out there in that vicinity, when I was doing that during the pandemic. And
oh my God, if I never hear that phrase again, it'll be too soon.
Oh, I'd rather not either. But and I had to do it. But it was like, I mean, I had to put like a sign in my car that, I was technically a city employee, at the time, just to make sure I didn't get towed. But yeah, like, I remember just like seeing all the signs, like you can't park on that street. So that leads to everyone's got to park in your yard, or again, like there are the lots. I mean, you got to pay so much money for the parking, but like on top of that, there are people who get that. There are people who sell water bottles, like out front of their house, it is, there are a whole lot of options for kind of independent business, just again, starting with using your yard for parking, and going from there. And it's wild, but it's just, it's a huge deal. And it's, it's got every reason to think it's going to be a really, really big deal this year.
Its qualifications are over. We talked earlier about who was it that got bumped from the Graham Rahal? It was Graham Rahal.
It was Graham Rahal.
Actually, I was thinking of Rahal Lanigan, Letterman Lanigan Racing, but by 7/1000th of a second. And I was asking John, I said, John, do you know how fast 7/1000th of a second is? I said, it's an eye blink.
Yeah, it's not even that. No,
it is so fast. It's almost not measurable.
Right.
It takes an electronic measurement to measure that. It is so fast. You could not hand measure that. No. And it's almost so close that it should probably not even be allowed. It should probably be a tie. If you're within 3 1,000ths or 100ths, whatever it is, 100,000th of a second. I don't even know what I'm down to now. Tenths, hundreds, thousandths, 3,000ths of a second, or whatever it is. That's like the NBA rule or the basketball rule, where it's 0.3 or below, you can't score because there's not enough time. I think that if it's 3 100ths of a second within that, that's a tie. That's the margin. That's the margin for error. So I think they should tie that. But Unfortunately, that's not the case.
If you can measure, you can measure. Like you said, it's electronic. So it's like if you can measure it, then you can separate it. It's hard not to do it.
The poll winner was decided by less than that.
Yeah.
Blue won the poll by 6 1,000ths of a second.
Sheesh.
So it's that's something. We got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the NBA combine draft or the NBA combine rather, not as we head up to the draft. Dustin was up in Chicago checking that out and lots more. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Barbara Pop Real Estate Services, as well as Cheryl Sizemore and Remax. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore, and her 2 decades of experience could be the difference between you getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl, at IndyHomePros.com. Or if you're in the Louisville, Southern Indiana area, check out Barbara Pop. Barbara at barbarapop.com, or our friend Matt Lincoln, Matt at barbarapop.com. They've served those communities for 3 decades, all of which are great supporters of ISB Radio. And make sure you support those who support us. Back with more Dustin Dopirak right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the mercy me. So you're not. So no race for you, huh?
No race for me. No.
You won't go out to Carb Day or anything?
Yes, probably not. I mean, I'm trying to think. When is Carb Day? That's not Saturday, is it?
Friday.
No. So wedding this week. My wife's in it. So
gotcha.
Yeah. So we've got rehearsal dinner on Friday.
That's
wedding
Carb Day.
Saturday. So stuff like that. So she's a bridesmaid. So that'll be entertaining. And yeah, like I was talking to, because we just hired somebody, Chloe Peterson, who's going to take over. She's going to be kind of a general assignment, trending reporter. So she's covering the Fever, and so I was helping her out on Friday. And
who is?
Her name's Chloe Peterson. Is her name? And she was saying that it's a 5 a.m. wake up call to get to the track on Sunday. That's when everybody's going up. I'm like, I will not be conscious at 5 a.m. No chance.
That's only to beat all the crap.
Yeah.
It's not because once you get there, you'll have stuff to do. No, then you just got to jack around. Yeah. Then you just got to jack around for hours.
Mm-hmm. God, I would sleep.
Dude, I hear you.
5 a.m. is early, extremely early.
Trust me, I know.
I better retweet this. No.
Now, what happens this week?
As far as draft is concerned,
as far as Indy 500,
they're probably. I don't think they'll be in town. I think they're going to go see some people. Like obviously there's this sort of back and forth of you bring them to your facility, you go to theirs. I mean, these guys have agencies that they work out with. That like their agency has like development teams, where they all hang out in LA and scrimmage together and work out and pick up and everything.
Here we go, guys.
All made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Monday to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Jim Coyle with you as always, joined now by Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star. Just finished up talking about Indy 500 coming up, but also he has spent his last several days up in Chicago at the NBA Combine, which is a prelude to the draft coming up. How many people were in the Combine, Dustin?
What, 60? Somewhere in those lines, maybe 70, 80. I mean, it's got to be like...
Okay, so it's pretty close then to the full amount of the first and second round draft picks.
It's more than that. Because obviously you got to have enough for, a lot of those guys are going to go undrafted, obviously.
Right.
And a lot of them are also going to leave. A not small portion of the guys that were there are going to pull out by the May 31st deadline. I think Zach Edey will. I'll be really surprised if he does.
Be shocked.
Situation and decide that he needs to come back.
But I didn't think you had to. I thought you could stay in the draft and still pull out afterwards. Is that not changed?
I don't. You might be able to from the NBA standpoint, but no, the early entry deadline is still May 31st to get back in. That's the NCAA deadline. So I don't know what would happen.
To get back into college.
Right. So because obviously at some point you have to tell your coach that you're coming back. And he can only keep that roster spot open for so long, and not try to fill it. So they think May 31st, I think, is fair. And so, Edey said, I'm going to take all the time. And I think what Edey is trying to do more than anything else, do I think in his heart of hearts he's probably out already? Probably. But I think he is also trying to lay the groundwork.
Yeah, I don't think he was ever truly in. I think it was just hey, let me go through this process. Let me hear what they have to say. Let them tell me what I need to work on to get better, because he needs to be a first round draft pick. I think when he comes back, or try to work on that, because that's a lot. It's just more money. It's the better contract.
It's the guaranteed contract. That's really the piece that's important, is that you don't want to leave with time to go if you're not guaranteed to be on a team. Whereas first round draft pick, you're guaranteed to be on a team. So, but at some point you also just have to go. I think in Trace Jackson Davis's case, it's not a guarantee that he's going to be a first round pick, but I think everyone generally presumes he's going to go in the first 40. And at the very least, you're a priority second rounder. And that puts you in a position where you can almost safely say you're getting at least a two-way, which I think would be a perfectly fine scenario, for Trace Jackson Davis. I don't think the worst thing in the world would be to, if he ended up spending some time in the G League. And now he doesn't have to do that. He might find a place where he really fits. But I think, ultimately he's starting to view himself as a small ball 5. If they want to develop him into a 4 and, add the 3-point piece, G League makes sense, because I think it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for him to go play somewhere where results don't matter. And he's sort of encouraged to shoot, because no one cares if you win or lose. It's about development. That wouldn't be the worst thing. But I also think, just from we did a press call with Jonathan Gavoni and Bobby Marks, and he was just talking about just the his passing really stands out. A lot of parts of his game really stand out. So even though he's a bit between a 4 and a 5, there's a lot of little things he does, and he can be a role player right away. And even if he never gets the 3-point thing settled, he can be a really good backup 5 in the league for a long time. And so if a lot of other things go well, so he can be that either way. And he can, I don't think he's going to feel like, man, I really should have used that 5th year. I don't know that a lot would have changed. I think he would have been in the same scenario, and because he was trying to win. He would always be trying to win at Indiana. So it's not like he would suddenly decide to go into year 5 and say, this is going to be the year I shoot threes. He didn't do it any of the previous 4 years. He wouldn't do it in year 5. So, it makes sense to jump at this point. And again, if you're top 40, you're in good enough shape. Someone's going to pick you. Worst case scenario, you're probably on a 2-way, so you're in pretty good shape there. Whereas if you're not sure you're going to be a second round pick and second round pick is your best case scenario, then it makes sense to come back because, again, that doesn't guarantee that you'll be on an NBA roster by the time October comes around. And so you could be in the G League. You could, find yourself trying to scrap for a gig in Europe. So it doesn't make, when you have another year on the board to make an impact, it makes more sense. But I think he has a chance to lay some groundwork. I think the most excited thing the thing that was most sort of exciting to him was how he performed. One of the agility drills is kind of like box drill where you got to just sort of like run to the front of the lane, to the back of the lane, sort of like sidestep around the lane. He put together a pretty good score of that for a guy his size, and he did, his measurement showed out as pretty legit at 7'3", 306, 7'10" and a half wingspan. It's like this is a very, very large human, and he just wanted to show he could move at all, because that's the biggest fear, is that you can put him in the pick and roll, and if you do, that you're just going to just cut him up. And his goal is to be able to show a team that he can play pick and roll defense and not be embarrassed every single time. And he feels like, I think, that he's starting to lay groundwork for making people believe that it's possible.
And both Jalen Hood-Schifino has all along been considered a first round draft pick. It's whether or not he can bump himself up to the lottery or not. And he's been kind of up there, down. We'll see. What was the word on Jalen up in Chicago, your days up there?
I mean, he didn't do a lot.
He did a lot less than most people. And by that, I'm saying taking tests and he didn't take many of the tests, did he?
I don't think he took any tests at all. I didn't see him on the floor. And he didn't come out with his group that he was listed with. So, I mean, I think he's in a scenario where he knows he's a first round pick. I don't know that he can get, I guess he can get into the lottery. It's all about fit. I mean, I think it happens to be the case where a lot of these teams aren't looking for lead guards. A lot of those guys are kind of set with them, but he can fit with several teams as kind of a backup option at this point from like 15, 16 down. And I think that's just kind of where he is. Now, the good part about that is the good chance he gets to play for a winner, right away, and, gets to build up that way as kind of an understudy for some people. Golden State, I think, is one team I've seen them connected to. And obviously, if he gets to start his career as the backup for Jalen Hood-Schifino, Jalen Hood-Schifino, Steph Curry, and, play alongside Jordan Poole and kind of that second unit, like that's not the worst place in the world to be. And play with Vincenzo and those type of guys and play after Clay, that's a pretty good starting spot. And so I think there's some others where he would sort of fit as, and again, walk in and be the backup second string point guard, on day one and be able to kind of run his own unit and then eventually, lead up to being a starter, eventually. I think he's in pretty good shape there. So I think everybody kind of knows what his deal is, and I don't know that there was a lot that he had to prove. He's safely a first round pick, and I think it's just a sense of all you can do is kind of hurt yourself, whereas Trace had something to prove, and Edie certainly had a lot to prove. Jalen didn't have very much to prove at all.
A comment by Philip says that Jalen Hood-Schifino might want to be later in the first round as opposed to a lottery to get drafted by a good team, but that's I understand that, but there's a big financial difference between being in the lottery and not being in the lottery. And I think that's what people are missing. $12 million guaranteed is different than roughly $5 million, a 2-year contract that's not guaranteed, right? That's right. The difference, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, you're still guaranteed in the first round. I'm pretty sure that's the case, but yeah, I mean, he's in good shape. He's in good shape either way. I think, I think he's going to be more in the 15 to 22 range. is sort of where he sets out, and that's a healthy place to be. It's not like end of first. Sometimes like you can find yourself buried on a good team, at the end of the first round, because they don't really need anybody, maybe they need a role player or somebody like that, but more likely when they're looking to build their teams, like somebody like Boston. Well, that's right, Boston's not picked because the Pacers have their pick, but like, I'm trying to think of who's going to be, towards the bottom of that round. Like if you're Denver's pick, or if you're Milwaukee's pick or whatever, like there's not a whole lot of room for you to step in and make an impact. I mean, Jordan Nora got buried as an early second round pick in Milwaukee and got a chance in Indiana. So you can go on a ready-made, championship level team and not get a real chance. But I think Jalen Hood-Schifino is going to be on a team that's good, but not too good that doesn't need something, and so that's a nice place to be. Is he's going to be on a team that made the playoffs, was a postseason team, but is not, needs a few pieces before it's championship level, and he's not going to be the one guy they bring in. They're not going to put all of their eggs on him being the guy that takes them to the next level, but he's going to have an opportunity to make an impact on a good team right away. Even if it's just second unit stuff, and maybe he's not a major piece of the rotation by playoff time, but during the year, he's got to have a chance to make an impact and sort of build his way towards being the guy that's running the show.
And he's someone who's going to need tutelage, and he's going to have to grow. I know that he played very, very well. Xavier Johnson's injury, I hate to say it like this, but it was the best thing that could have happened to Jalen Hood-Schifino. If that injury doesn't happen, I think Jalen Hood-Schifino is probably at Indiana maybe for another year. I'm not sure if he goes or not. He doesn't have the look. He doesn't get the opportunities that he got all season to grow, because he definitely grew during this season.
It's just the amount of decisions that you get to make. It's just, we obviously went in talking about, okay, what are how are Xavier and Jalen going to play off each other? And what the bottom line is that it means is you play a certain amount of possessions on the ball and a certain amount off the ball. Now there's certain things he'd be able to prove by like, hey, like I can step off and, still make an impact, but you grow with every decision you have to make. When you're in the position where you're running pick and roll and you've got to decide whether you're pulling up for three, pulling up from mid-range, making the pass, going to the hole, the more that you're in that position to make those reads, the more you put that on tape and show what you can do and how good you can be, and just how you can direct an offense. And so like you put a lot of that on tape, and then, NBA teams are much more interested. Like when it's just, you cut in half, like imagine you cut in half the amount of decisions he had to make this year, like you don't feel like you have nearly as much of a track record. So I could see how the NBA would be like, we'd like to see more from you. We'd like to see you run a team. And, he has to run a team. He had to be the guy that was giving you all the perimeter points. Sometimes, he had games where, he had scored 2 points and games where he scored 35. Well, that tells you though, a little bit about a point guard, it's like he only he had to know when it was time to feed somebody else, and he had to know when it was time for him to go take over. And that's an important thing for a point guard to learn. So, he had to learn that and had to show that over the course of the year. He had to show when he had to be the guy, and have an understanding of when that is, and, how you're being defended, what they're giving you, taking that shot, and, again, when to defer. And he did a really good job of doing that. So, I mean, he had a lot of opportunity to grow, and he came out and said this. I mean, we asked him about, like, I was like, how do you think, what were the leaps you think you had to make? And that was the first thing he said was like, well, when X got hurt, I stepped up. And so, yeah, there's a good chance that he would still be at Indiana if they had to go through the double point guard thing for a whole year. And because he was in a position where he had to be the point guard, the lead perimeter scorer, really the second guy, the number 2 scorer by a long shot, after Trace, like that gets him a lot further.
And speaking of Trace, he is someone who definitely needed to help himself at the combine, and more so just showing that he has a few more tools in his basket than some people think he does. There was talk of him that he was putting shots up, and he was actually doing fine shooting the ball. So did he help himself at this draft?
Yeah, he did. I mean, there's more that he could have done, I thought, but like, I think it was valuable just to show that he can make a jump shot, that it's possible. Like he wasn't spectacular in the shooting drills, like he wasn't like, top 10 on the board or anything like that. But he hit threes. He showed he can make a 29-foot jump shot, undefended, running around, like there's just the simple fact that he has that range with his jumper. It's not, like getting to watch it. I mean, there are some hitches in it, like where his release point is, like it's not, the most by the book I've ever seen. But it's possible for it to go in. It's just like, all right, like it's conceivable that he can develop shooting range, and you do need to be able to be a threat. You just have to be able to be defended, like it just has to be a scenario where when you get the ball at the top of the key, if you pick and pop, someone has to follow you, like you can't drop two guys and leave you alone and it'd be okay. Like that's the biggest issue is you don't have to hit 50% of your threes if you're Trayce Jackson-Davis. You got to be able to just pick and pop and hit the occasional one. Like you don't even have to hit 40. If you hit 30.
That was the case when he was in Indiana, and I'm not talking about 3-pointers. We're talking about 12 footers. If he could have just done that occasionally, that would have changed Indiana's offense a lot.
It would have. I mean, I guess his argument. So I asked him, like obviously it was nice because I have the background, having covered him enough to be able to say, the specifics. Whereas like most of these other guys, I'm running around for Pacers reasons and asking stuff that I don't nearly have the background on. But Trayce, I obviously did. And I was like, all right, Trayce, and he rolled his eyes at me when I asked. But I said, every year we asked you, we said you were going to shoot 3-pointers, and every year it didn't happen. What's you're going to be asked about that? What's your answer going to be as to why it didn't? He said, I just didn't see it. He said, I was never told not to shoot. He says, but like I'm scoring 65%, making 65% of my shots around the rim. And he's right. I mean, he got 75% of his field goal attempts last year were at the rim, so within 5 feet. And he's 65% there, and he's like, I'm making all those shots, and I'm dragging in defenders and demanding a double team every time. So, and then I'm throwing stuff out, and Trey Galloway's shooting 45% from 3 because he's getting open shots because I've got that kind of gravity. So it was better for us, and so I have a hard time arguing with that. I'm sure there were more threes for him to hit. I mean, I think the thumb injury, obviously, I think held him back too, because I think when he was dealing with that at his back as well, I mean, I think he thought, during the non-conference portion of the schedule where he could have chucked a few, I think he was like, yeah, I don't think I'm ready because I'm not healthy. But his point was just like, look, like I'm way more efficient around the rim. What's the point of me just chucking a few threes? Like, what's that going to do? How much is that going to help me? And I don't know how much it would have helped. I think it would have made a slight difference, but I mean, like he wasn't going to go out there and hit 40%. So, if he would have shown he's a real threat from 3, then that would have helped his cause a lot, and that would have helped Indiana a lot. But if he was just going to hit 25% of them, is that worth the trade-off? I mean, like the wasted possessions. And I think he just ultimately viewed, in fairness, that Indiana was too frequently in a position where every possession mattered. That giving a possession away gave you a chance to lose a basketball game. And so his thought was, like my best bet of getting points on the board is getting in there, and either I get a 2 or I kick out for 3 and find somebody who's better equipped to hit it. And so if I just command that much gravity, we got a better chance of winning. And I have a hard time arguing with him. Trayce is a really smart basketball mind, and it stands out when you talk to other guys at his level because like he really is beyond most of them. from an intellectual level. He is a very, very smart basketball mind. He gets it. And that's going to sell well for him at the draft. Like, I don't think until you see it up close, you don't realize how important that is. Guys that get it, understand systems, understand plays, understand what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it. Like, that goes a long way to making a good locker room, making a good player. I mean, like, he is advanced as far as that's concerned. Like, he is really next level. And so he's going to fit. And so I do think, and I asked him the flip question. I was like, do you think that's a selling point for you, that you can tell coaches, hey, like, yeah, I know you guys wanted me to shoot threes. That wasn't what was best for my team. I did what was best for my team. That's who I am. That's who you're drafting if you get me. And he said, yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to sell here. But I asked that question because I believe it, that, like, I do think he's going to be able to sell the fact that he cares more about winning than he does about his own draft stock. And I think that will play well, for an NBA franchise. It won't lead to him to being a lottery pick. But I do think that whoever picks him late first round is going to be a winner. Probably won't be giving him a ton of minutes right away, but will have a role for him. Is going to be happy they had him because he's going to improve. He's going to improve their team dynamic as a whole.
That's probably because he stayed the length of time that he did. He's someone who, not physically as much, but mentally needed to learn those things that you just talked about. And I think the length of time, all the things that went on during his time, Archie Miller, in, out, all of that, being talked into staying, Mike Woodson, the roller coaster ride that the program was on, which it was absolutely that. But that's a lot of learning.
Sure.
And when you are able to go through that and come out on the other side, you usually come out with a lot more knowledge and experience.
I would agree. The one thing he completed the course. That what I would say though is that going into junior year, I thought his press conferences were fascinating in both times when he decided to come back for his junior year and for his senior year, and when he really kind of sat down with us by Zoom, both cases by Zoom. One, it was sort of a press conference setting, but both years. But it really, every time we talked to him, you really got a sense that this kid gets it. But junior and senior year especially, both of those years, you really got the sense that, man, this guy really, you learned something when you talk to him, but you got a sense that, like, everything he did for a reason. And he could justify. And so, you could tell already he was a really smart kid, but there were a whole bunch of lessons learned. And, he sort of completed his coursework. He got, again, was through two, coaches, teachers, whatever you want to say, two different systems, losing teams, winning teams, situations where just he was in various roles. There was a lot that he grew from, a lot that he will be able to take into an NBA experience that not everybody gets. He didn't get to win the whole time. He doesn't have 4 NCAA tournaments that he could point to, a championship or whatever. But he had different stuff that will be valuable as well.
Are you? How confident are you that he gets drafted in the second round? They're not pinning it to the second round, but
he gets picked sometimes in these 2 rounds. Pretty confident. I asked that to Gavoni straight out, and obviously Gavoni's one of those guys who lives this stuff, and so he's like, yeah, that's for sure. He's definitely getting picked. So no one's under the impression that he's not going. It's just a question of whether it's going to be. I think it's somewhere between 25 and 35. I think ultimately that's where he's going to go. The Pacers have a couple picks in there. So in some way they're able to kind of determine that. They've got 3, but they don't intend to use all of them. So they're probably going to be moving those to somebody, and those will have to make the decisions. I don't think, especially if I don't think he's a good fit for the Pacers right now, because I think he's functioning more as a small ball 5, and they already have small ball 5s in Jalen Smith and Isaiah Jackson. They had a hard enough time getting those guys minutes before Miles Turner as was. And so I don't know that he's he's got to shoot that 3 if he's going to be a 4, and I think he can be fine as a 5 in the league. But again, they already have 2 5s, one of which doesn't shoot 3s, one of which is just okay at it. And so I don't think the Pacers need him, but I think there's, the teams that they probably move those picks to might be more interested.
Speaking of professional basketball, a tweet that Dustin Dopirak sent out that I caught. Do you know who and this is not directed at Dustin because he already knows the answer, but do you know who the 2 highest guys drafted by the current on the Miami Heat roster are? Victor Oladipo and Cody Zeller. I know you do. That's why I said it's your tweet. But that's a very interesting stat. Victor Oladipo and Cody Zeller are the 2 highest draft picks on the current Miami team. Of course, Victor is out and Cody coming off of the bench. But and I made the mistake last week of saying it looked like this is a very good shot of 2 Indiana big guys playing. The only mistake I made was thinking it was going to be with Los Angeles, but I forgot that Thomas Bryant had been traded. Not only had been traded, but he'd been traded to Denver, which is much better for him. Yeah. He's in much better shape, way better shape. Both squads have a 3-0 lead heading toward the finals, which is crazy. But we're looking at an Indiana big band clash, which I know that these are not starters we're talking about, but that's pretty cool and unique in and of itself.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. It'll be cool to see some of those guys. It's been cool to see Cody, run around and make an impact. I mean, he's been a rotation guy, kind of coming in and giving Bam Adebayo a breather, basically at the 5, but he's done some good stuff. And I mean, I think Denver's a lot better than we've given them credit for. I don't think we should be nearly as shocked about this as we seem to be. Jokic's spectacular. Jamal Murray's playing great, and
when Miami's the team, I mean,
but Miami is a shocker. Boston should
has an 8 seed. I'm assuming has never made the NBA Finals.
No, right? The Knicks did in '99. Now the thing about that was a lockout year, so they had a pretty significant lockout because that was when Jordan retired the second time, and that was part of the reason he did retire the second time is he didn't feel like dealing with the labor strife. And so, I mean, I think it was a lockout. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And I think they only played maybe 50 games that year, in the regular season. And so, like, by the time you get to the playoffs, it's like, okay, is an 8 seed really an 8 seed? But no, the Knicks made the finals, got beat by the Spurs. That was the year that the Spurs were terrible, and then got Tim Duncan and David Robinson got back healthy, and they won the title. But I'm trying to remember who was on that Knicks team.
Speaking of which, here comes life repeating itself.
Yeah. Now they don't have another big guy. There's no David Robinson to Victor Wembanyama's Tim Duncan. But
but it doesn't. It seems like that won't take much to add to Mr.
There will be guys who want to go play for him now. Yeah, with him now, they're gonna get good really fast.
And yet another Indiana IU connection there with Romeo Langford on that San Antonio team, but I don't know that he may be part of the shakeup, but there will be probably a shakeup when Wembanyama comes in.
Yeah, no, we'll see. Yeah, there will certainly be guys that get moved around and trades that get made and decisions that are made to, make roster sense. But I mean, he had some moments, I think, when he was healthy. I mean, he was not healthy very much. He had an abductor strain or something along those lines, but he did, he helped himself, I think to a certain degree, at least early on in the season. We'll see what happens then. I mean, obviously there's only a couple guys I think that are safe, probably Keldon Johnson and Jeremy Sochan as they try to rebuild that roster. Sochan was a really nice player. But yeah, it's all about Wembanyama now, and he is going to be something else.
Have we spoken since Indiana landed in Baco? I can't remember if it was this past Friday or a week ago Friday now.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. Now, so they have that one guard spot that they're leaving kind of open at the moment. I'm not sure if they're waiting to see what shakes out of the draft that we just talked about, guys pulling back out because there are, what is today, the 22nd? So you've got like a week There's a week where guys can pop out, and they know that. So there's no reason for them not to wait, really, because who knows what can pop into that spot.
Right. I mean, you have to be in the portal too, I think.
Oh, yeah.
You have to put your name in the portal while you're in the draft. So, yeah, there are some things that can come available there.
What's up next for you, man?
Just covering this draft the rest of the way, man. Just, I don't know, trying to make some calls, trying to get a sense of what's going on, check out these workouts. I think they're going to be out in California this week, checking out a lot of people. Obviously a lot of these guys have agencies and they work out with them. And a lot of those are based in California. I know Jalen and Trace are both out there, working out. So that Indiana, I'm sure the Pacers will be bouncing around out there. So won't have a ton going on this week, but I'm sure the next coming weeks they'll bring some guys in. I'm sure Trace will get a workout. I think Trace said he's going to get a workout in Indiana. So we're going to be able to check in with him. Like I said, I don't know that he's a fit on the Pacers roster, but it's still going to be fun, I think, to follow his draft process and see where it goes. And again, I think it's safe to say that he's going to get picked. So I think that's just a big step. I mean, he's a guy that deserves it. So I think it's just going to be good to, a fun read for a lot of people to follow this and see him get drafted and find himself on an NBA roster.
I know there was one other thing I wanted. Carmelo Anthony just announced his retirement after 19 years, I think, which is what a hell of a career. But his son has an offer from Indiana. We know the long-time relationship between Mike Woodson and Carmelo, and I'm thinking, I wonder if there would be a college position for one Carmelo Anthony to come into in the near future.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I'd be very interested to see what that would be. I mean, I don't know that he's he doesn't strike me as a recruiting assistant, somebody who
but just being on staff would probably be a huge gain. I mean, there's not many schools that can say something like that.
I mean, I imagine he'll be some kind of ambassador. It's just a question of, does he want to come to Bloomington? I mean, because he's got a son. Doesn't he have a son that's like a recruit, a significant recruit?
Well, yeah, Indiana's offered him.
Yeah.
That's kind of my point.
Right. Would they do that? I don't know. I mean, maybe.
And not just for that, but there's a long time relationship there, and that would be what a draw that would be. I mean, seriously, think about that. People look at Woodson as an NBA guy. Well, what the hell are they going to look at Indiana when you have Carmelo Anthony on staff as well?
Yeah, I'd be interested. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't know that he's that type of guy. Like you just get a sense of some guys who want to be in it. Who want to be coaches, who want to be, staff guys, who want to just be part of programs. Does Carmelo Anthony strike me as one of those guys? I don't know. Like some guys are that, some guys aren't that. Some guys, the day they leave college, that it's just a matter of time before they come back. Like Jordan Halls, like you knew when Jordan Halls was done.
Children change things, brother.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Not a question.
Dustin Dopirak, Indy Star. Make sure you're giving him a follow. Appreciate you, my friend.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon. Dustin Dopirak from Indy Star. We appreciate him greatly here on ISB Radio. We're back with more right after this. Brought to you by Hoosier Hank and Hank's Pizza Mac, located right at 1280 North College Avenue, right in the heart of on the north side of Bloomington. And you can get anything delivered at 812-330, all zeros, whether it's pizza Mac bowls, tot bowls, all incredibly delicious. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether it's
That was just a good segment. There was too much good stuff to talk about.
Kevin Brockway is going to come on tomorrow. Kevin Sweeney was unavailable. Kevin Brockway is going to do 9:50.
Cool.
All right, 30 seconds.
Stone Restaurant, located at the corner of Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington, offers a variety of freshly made fare, tying their roots in Limestone with their love of Southern eateries. With quality, local, and organic food as their main focus, Southern Stone strives to always provide their guests with an exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious, 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Monday, May 22, here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Courtroom Sports Grill down in Bedford. What an incredible Cajun cuisine they have. Great place to take the family, meet friends for lunch, or watch a game. The Big Ten, this giant TV deal that you've heard about, well, new commissioner Tony Petitti has been dealing with all of the mess that was left behind by your favorite commissioner and mine, Kevin Warren. Apparently, those deals, more than $7 billion, have some serious issues. Just 3 months before the season kicks off and those TV deals begin, the Big Ten does not have completed long-form contracts, which include the fine print details. So that has left new Commissioner Petitti to be working long and hard on getting these sewn up. His quote is, "The deals aren't done and they aren't what they were represented to be from the standpoint of the NBC deal and the availability of all members to participate in November games in prime time," said an industry source. Interviews with nearly a dozen sources in and around the Big Ten say that he is sprinting to navigate details left unresolved by his predecessor. As a result, there's a trail of unhappy athletic directors in the Big Ten, seeing money disappearing from their bottom line. There's also frustrated TV executives. Big-name coaches are irked by the lack of transparency. When Kevin Warren accepted his latest job, he said he was leaving the Big Ten in a demonstrably better position, which is true financially,
as the schools project to receive more money, but there's a gigantic mess. None of it was finished. The Big Ten schools have seen potential revenue disappear in the past few months from a contract that was announced back in August as being worth an average of nearly $1 billion a year through the 29 football season. Now more than $70 million is suddenly in flux, nearly $5 million per school. So that leaves people like Scott Dolson wondering what they're going to do to make up for that. They are going to have to pay back $40 million to Fox because, according to sources, former Commissioner Warren delivered NBC the Big Ten football title game in 2026 without the full authority to do so. This has all unfolded under the complicated backdrop of the Big Ten Conference not actually controlling the rights to the inventory of this deal. The Big Ten Network does, which is majority owned by Fox. Which, no pun intended, but the fox is guarding the hen house, people. That was totally intended. They're going to also have to pay $25 million total for a deal to pay Fox back for lost 2020 football game inventory. This came after an arrangement between Fox and the conference that was unable to muster the lost revenue from the COVID season. So that's $65 million right there. There's tens of millions of dollars of value on the NBC primetime deal that is in flux, as Petiti has been racing to ensure it keeps as much as its original value as possible. Historically, in the Big Ten, after the first weekend in November, schools were not required to play night games for a myriad of reasons, health, recovery, campus logistics among them. Those were known in league circles as tolerances, and prior television contracts accounted for them. But multiple sources told ESPN there's pushback from a number of schools, including Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, to play those late November late night games under the new contract. That leaves the current commissioner trying to figure out how to uphold a deal for hundreds of millions of dollars for primetime games without the cooperation of some of the league's marquee teams. So, Kevin Warren, there you go. Time to take a quick break. We'll get back to this and more. I went along with Dustin, so we got to catch up on a break here. We'll do that. Be back with more on ISB Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the look at Phelan Gardner in Belize. Dude, man, that would have been a great place to do the show from. Well, Russell, no, there is no breaking recruiting news today. Well, as of this moment. What a mess that is.
What a mess.
Oh, but I just talked about.
Oh, the Warren stuff, yeah.
I get so sick of people saying he was he was terrible. And here's more proof. Warren did not return requests for comment. Of course he didn't. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, he gave away the title game from Fox. What an idiot. Appreciate you, Fred. Oh my God, that's sickening.
All right. 30 seconds here in just a moment.
Owned and operated by Endeavor Hospitality Group, launched from a previous staple in Bloomington, the former Function Brewing, Metalworks Brewing Company is the culmination of a passion for beer, food, and custom metal art. Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hops' Brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday, May 22. Another beautiful day. Chamber of Commerce weather. Absolutely. Do you remember, I believe it was Friday, I talked about the son of Bo Schembechler being hired, Shimmy Schembechler, being hired at Michigan. I forget the position. It doesn't even matter because he's gone. He gone already. 3 days. He's gone. That did not take long. But he had sent out a thank you or whatever on his Twitter account. But apparently someone started looking through and there are just several likes that where he had liked several insensitive comments, just really bad tweets that he seemed to be supportive of. So he's gone. Michigan has enough trouble apparently because, Jim Harbaugh is kind of under investigation for potential recruiting issues during COVID. Last month, fired the co-offensive coordinator, Matt Wise, was fired because he's under investigation for computer access crimes. So, little Mishy, Jim Harbaugh doesn't have things going. Things aren't going that well for him right now, but those are probably little problems for Jimbo. How my Reds doing? Man, I think they finally fell to last place, and the Yankees just destroyed them. Boy. I know some people that actually went up there and saw that wish I could have gone. As I cannot believe the Yankees are in third place. They do have a winning record, though. Every team in the American League East has a winning record. Every team. Wow. Can that be sustained? Because the other divisions are not even close to that.
being the case. In the National League, same thing. No one is close to having the entire division with a winning record. And the Reds have, of course, they've lost 4 in a row. So not only has the Cards moved up, the Cubs have moved down. The Cubbies are in next to last place in the Central Division, a game in front of Cincinnati. The Cardinals also, both the Cards and the Cubs are 5 games back. Pirates, a game back with the Brewers now. And my Reds, man, I just don't think that they're ever going to do anything again. Got swept by the Yankees over the weekend. But can the Reds ever win again? Tim Sullivan, the former sports director for the Courier-Journal, has a piece. Says it can be done. But I don't know if it can be done by the Reds. The Tampa Bay Rays, they're not what you call a big market team. Kansas City won the World Series a few years ago. Baltimore. It's hard for me to think that it can be over with baseball being such a long season. So I don't think so, but we'll see. So that means I'm destined. It stinks to think that you're destined to be the fan of a team that is never going to win again. And I don't see how that's going to happen. But that's just me being positive. Ha! Just looking forward to getting to Indy and taking in some of that. Who all's going? Anyone going to the race? Anyone heading up to Indianapolis this week? Appreciate you, Russell. We appreciate you very much. And everybody hitting us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. You can do so as well on the YouTube, as the kids call it. Michael says Cardinals are the hottest team in baseball besides the Astros. That means they're the second hottest team in baseball. Well, I wouldn't say that now. The Cardinals have won 2 whopping games in a row, although they have risen from the bottom of the bottom. The Central's the bottom of the bottom, though. In both leagues, no less. But that's where the smallest market teams are. Our friend Rick Bozich, his White Sox, they're in 4th, although they've won 3 in a row. They're still 10 games below 500. The Royals I talked about, man, they're yikes. That's ugly. Trying out your football team is losing. Well, they added a quarterback. I talked about that. Garb Day coming up. That's right, for the Indy 500. That's this Friday, where we're planning on being for the show. Hopefully we can have some fun up there and bring you some live action.
1 minute.
Looking forward to that. Back tomorrow to do it again. Cannot wait to talk to Mike DeCourcy and crew. Big thanks to everybody on the program today. Dustin Dopirak, of course. Thanks to John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we have no reason to be here. Make sure you support our sponsors. Support those who support us.
Without them, we have no reason to be here. Just like without you, we have no reason to be here. We're back tomorrow to do it again from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. For everybody, I am Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.